Hello neighbors! Have you ever felt like roleplaying as a vampire? I'm talking Dracula from 2004's Van Helsing roleplaying. Well, your friendly neighbor here highly recommends that you play VRISING. Before we move on, this video contains spoilers. You've been warned. Alright, let's go. VRISING was developed by Stunlock Studios, and I really hope they watch this video so they can take the feedback I have to give. So this video game came out of early access in 2022, but had its full release in May 2024, and the developers are still adding more content into the game throughout its lifecycle. If I had to explain what it is, VRISING is somewhat like Diablo meets survival crafting added to it. You can play the game entirely solo like I did, but it seems to be designed as a group task to be done. Especially since most of the boss fights, I relied heavily on the unholy spell trees, use of summons well into the final act. Stunlock Studios did really well with this release. I'm normally not into the whole asymmetrical type of game, but I'm really starting to make exceptions from Baldur's Gate 3 to this. While this game is nowhere near Baldur's Gate 3 quality, it's really starting to show how gamers stuck in their ways, like me, are now willing to get out of their comfort zone to try games they normally wouldn't. You start off as a vampire awakening from hibernation, as vampires have been overthrown from this world centuries ago. Your goal is to grow in power and subjugate the known world to make vampires great again. You start off with just your claws in a dream, but slowly become more powerful as you harvest and fight for resources. These resources then are used to craft better armors and weapons to further increase your power. The problem is you don't remember how to make stuff, I guess, so you learn by killing every single boss to learn new recipes to make. Now unlock new spells to diversify your capabilities. You can see what you unlock in the V Blood menu. That is essentially a boss tower you will be climbing the entire game. As of this video, there's a total of 57 bosses, with it culminating with the final showdown against Dracula himself, and you have to take his throne. Some bosses do need prerequisite bosses done to utilize the items rewarded. For example, in Act 4, I kept trying to fight this priest boss, but I hadn't unlocked the latest holy resistance potions from a boss below him on the boss tower. I was trying to rush this guy so I can refine gold and progress, but simply couldn't take the punishment from all the spells he casted, plus the permanent holy damage I was taking because I was on hallowed ground in the church.
Sorry, consecrated ground. Oh, it's like being a bitch in bare feet.
This pushed me to fall back and defeat the boss that gave me a better holy resistant potion recipe, so I can come back adequately equipped to fight him. And when you die, the run back for most of these fights was Dark Souls level of ridiculous, as there are no sights of grace outside like an Elden Ring, and you have to battle your way through more trash again just to get back to the boss. One exception to this rule is the final boss that just respawns you outside the portal. Which, praise the Lord, because I died to Dracula countless times, as he feels like an in-game raid boss from any MMO with all the crap he throws at you. You will hit some walls when progressing through the bosses. I kept getting stuck on the boss that teaches you radium alloy, and I felt like I was slamming my head against a wall. But I adapted my tactics and eventually got the victory and pushed on. I will compare this feeling to sort of how I felt when I was playing Elden Ring. I was so infuriated on tons of boss fights, but the feeling of accomplishment you get once you win is so euphoric. And you increase in power so much as you progress through them, both in craftable items and your newfound knowledge of mechanics. The boss fights are so engaging as you learn the fight mechanics, when to dodge, when to hold your position, when you have a second to use a health potion, because when you use a health potion, it takes a whole second, making you vulnerable to attacks. Lots of times in the later fights and the later acts, you'll rarely have a breather to even take a health potion. You have to just dodge, and dodge again, like we're playing dodgeball. Lots of times you even have to prioritize other enemies, like in Adam's fight, when you need to destroy the beams to have room to avoid Adam. Otherwise, you're cooked. This is similar with Dracula's fight, where you have to clear the crystals before they flood the room. Range seems to be the meta in these fights if you're solo, as the boss and trash will have your undivided attention, unless you're spamming unholy spells to spawn skeletons, which I had to do most of the time. Lots of the other spells combos I couldn't really utilize unless no trash was involved, or if I was possibly playing co-op, which I will really drive home that this game seems scaled around co-op. Also, you have to fight the sun. If you're not within the shadows during the day, the sun will burn you to death, so it's important to watch what time it is before you fight a boss that's out in the open. It is absolutely vital, even on normal difficulty, to make sure you're completely topped off on spell power buffs, physical power buffs, resistances, leech, leading you to sidetrack to go farm the materials needed to craft everything. I do appreciate that even though crafting is vital, skill is required to complete these bosses. With every potion enabled and the best gear possible, Dracula still ran a fade on me. Which the crafting is good in this game until the end game where it becomes the weaker part of this game, which we're gonna dive into that. If you're gonna play this game, I recommend you max your harvest gains, as otherwise this will be a nightmare slog of farming and harvesting in the late game. It wasn't so bad early to mid, kind of approaching the late game, but that end game was just so ridiculous for grinding. It was so bad that I had to reduce the cost of crafting items and increasing the crafting speed. I understand this game is normally played in co-op online, so you'll have multiple people harvesting and stuff crafting over time, and your hunts from your servants being done when you get on the next day, and so on and so forth. But one thing specifically bothered me, and I'm gonna give y'all a little rant warning, but I'm gonna be cordial about it. So, survival-like crafting isn't the issue in games. It's how much time it makes you waste. There needs to be a fair balance between progressing and doing chores, and I felt maxing out the gains kept that balance, otherwise I would have been frustrated with the game. The biggest culprit is the Stygian crystal issue. These crystals are acquired from random rift events where you can farm these to turn lesser crystals into greater Stygian crystals to unlock the strongest weapons in the game. Problem is, each weapon costs 1,500 greater crystals, not even lesser, greater. That's only for the purple version of the weapons. For the orange legendary version, you have to spend this multiple times for one weapon, because it's RNG based. And there's about a dozen weapons. I had to console command generate almost 100,000 greater Stygian crystals just to get all of the legendaries. And that's just for me. What if I was playing co-op and they want only their specific legendaries? How much time would it take for the boys to acquire these? I do appreciate that they're coming out with reforging mechanics so you can choose your bonuses for your legendaries at least. But the farming that would have been needed to get these is just, it's so ridiculous. I'm really glad I didn't go through that, because then that would just stalled my enjoyment for the game. I'm really glad I changed the settings so I could just get the gear I needed so I can actually fight the bosses that were whooping my ass. Also, one thing, before you fight Dracula, you get 3 of the 4 pieces of the Dracula armor set. To get the 4th, you would have to defeat Dracula. What then? All the bosses are defeated now. What does that 4th piece get you? Unless new content already came out. It hasn't yet as of me making this video. Why not give me that 4th set piece in preparation of fighting Dracula? Which I had to console command that too, because it gets frustrating. Like, just give me the full set. It doesn't make any logical sense. I just don't get it. I don't want to linger on this for too long, but it really got me frustrated. I think this just made me looked at. This almost brought the game down from highly recommend to just recommend, but thank the Lord the developers love this game, because I noticed that y'all love this game with so much attention to detail as I was playing it, and I noticed y'all, I appreciate y'all. Alright, let's go back to praising this game. The crafting stuff I do like is little neat stuff like silver. Silver is a little different as it literally burns you for being a vampire, so you can only carry a certain amount. You have a limit depending on your bag size of how much you can carry, and it's important for making Act 4 weapons. The resources aren't too difficult to get, and the points of interest on the map highlight which materials can be acquired from there. Also, I appreciate that a lot of the materials from the previous acts that you used to have to push to, they become common loot in the higher acts. Like, I used to have to push to go farm iron, I used to have to push to go get cloth, and then boom, that's just dropping like crazy. Glass, I used to have to go farm, dropping like crazy in the later acts, I don't have to go back and farm. And I really appreciate that. You're helping me save my time, because I'm already in these areas farming all of these soldiers. You also have the servants too, that can go and basically go on missions, but they're called hunts here. They will go to specific areas, come back 12 to 24 hours later in game, by the way, and bring you a lot of resources. Which this works very well if you have like an online server going and just log back in the next day, hey, you got a bunch of resources. but it doesn't work that well in solo. I got like a couple times like, all right, sweet, I got some resources, but by the time they're going to come back from their second missions, they're like, all right, I'm at the point I didn't need these resources, and from what I can tell, there was no way I could adjust or speed up the time of them going out to get resources. So it was neat. It was kind of cool for like the mid game, and then afterwards it's like, all right, I don't really need to use this anymore because I can't reduce the time. But otherwise, it was pretty cool. I like the idea of getting servants, managing them. Oh, also, I didn't even put this in the script. Prisons. You can basically manage your blood type. So basically, there's different blood types. You can be a scholar, warrior, creature, different bonuses, different tiers can give you. They can go from 0% to 100%, and you want to get 100% because that's that tier 5 of blood type that will also buff all the tier 1 through 4 bonuses you get from that blood type. So you capture someone, you basically harvest their blood, and if they're like in the 90% range, you can mutate them to hopefully get to 100%, so you can get that sweet, sweet bonus. Like on my final fight with Dracula, I went with my 100% bonus with Warrior, and it was really, really vital with defeating that dude. You acquire these servants by subduing them in combat and enthralling them in a servant's coffin. You can craft like armors and weapons for these servants to make them stronger for harder missions and higher rewards, generally your passive income and materials you don't often go out looking for. I usually would have them go get silver. One thing I also appreciated was the castle building system. So my castles would end up turning into basically giant plantations fueling your war effort. And yes, I know, the little Django joke, like, I get it. The castle building, so in most like crafting survival games, the crafting is like rudimentary, it's not very well fleshed out, and here it's actually extremely fleshed out, and I really appreciate it. Anything can be moved. You can just simply press B to open up the menu, left click, and just move somewhere where it needs to be moved. You don't have to tear it down, build it back up, unless there's just a couple moments where you might have to rearrange stuff. If you want to just completely delete something, you're going to be refunded for the cost of putting that down, which is great. Stop wasting my time where I'm like, oh, I didn't put this in the right place. Let me get rid of it. Oh, I don't get my resources back. That type of system doesn't work. This type of system actually works. Your crafting rooms will be basically naturally separated between tailoring, forging, workshop, alchemy, your prison, your crypt, your jewel crafting. Each rooms, they have specialized flooring. They increase the production that you get. It reduces the cost for crafting the items as well. So you'll have a bunch of specialized rooms all next to each other, and you're constantly hopping from room to room, crafting resources, using those resources for the other room, and all the rooms are needed for each other so they can support your goal of becoming leader of the vampires. And it's really awesome. I think they did a really good job. They were cooking. It's just, again, like we talked earlier, they need to fix that Stygian crystal issue where, hey, I'm not going to slave away my entire life just to get better items to defeat Dracula. That just needs to be fixed a little bit, but let's not go back over there. You also have portals to help you move around the castle. Basically everything you can think of to make your life easier, the developers have implemented, and I greatly appreciate that. And the design and the beauty of these castles is unfathomable and just astounding. I very rarely even care about cosmetics. But I was designing my castle fully, and I was color coding my rooms. Like, my forge was dark red, workshop was going to be a yellow, my research station was like an arcane blue, jewel crafting a bright blue, my prison was pink for some reason, the alchemy station of course was green, and the rest of my castle was a nice little royalty purple. And it's just awesome. I was designing the wallpaper and everything. I was going full Sims on it, and they know what they were doing, and they did a really great job at it. Keep up the good work with that, y'all. One thing that really started catching my eye is the level of detail the devs put into designing the visuals of this game, and presentation is everything. So the shadows are so good in this game, which is absolutely perfect since you need them to survive against the sun. The castles are so beautifully designed, so much flavor has been put into this world, and everything in it, and I can feel the love poured into this game. The artwork is so beautiful, and they went all out into designing this world, the enemies, your character, the buildings, the spells. The music is gorgeous for the gothic Victorian setting of being a vampire. The biomes are so diverse and change the gameplay up so much. For example, you have some basic forests and hills where you fight common humans, then evolve into one biome where it's a Frankenstein-esque with mutations, electricity, science, like that kind of theme. You also have cursed forest and swamp where the biome is basically shadows or fogs up your mini map, your field of view, and your big map, and obscures everything as you navigate a really treacherous area. And it was absolutely haunting. And oh, there's one boss fight over there. You have to fight him in the fog, and he's constantly disappearing. You have to chase him down, and if he gets too far, he just heals all the way up. And oh, it's so frustrating. But eventually got it. I persevered. We got the Silver Hills, which has bustling infrastructure for human holy society, and you feel like you're truly invading. Going into human form to navigate the streets is fascinating as you make your way to vendors and targets. Even the cities are so beautifully designed. I can go on and on, but the more you play, the more you see how much love and attention was poured into this game, and the developers clearly loved and knew what they were doing. I want them to keep the same level of excitement and passion for the game, and I can't wait to see what else they come up with. I know they're making a whole new region now for VRISING and plan to keep developing it, and I'm very excited. So, I've completed the game. I'm now king of the vampires in this game, and I'm so glad I pushed through on the walls I hit with each boss. It was so rewarding finally beating this game, and I was so proud of myself for overcoming the odds. I haven't felt this happy and proud of winning since I've beaten Elden Ring. Again, before y'all get mad, I'm not comparing quality, I'm comparing that feeling of accomplishment after overcoming a difficult boss. VRISING is a beautiful game and a sleeper hit since it peaked at 150,000 players in early access, and even peaked again at 130,000 for the final release, which is impressive that so many people either returned or liked what they saw and bought it. Normally, early access games don't get so much high return of players on their full release, and I can see why they came back. I can see it. The combat, the ambience, music, artwork visuals, castle building, crafting system, everything was just so good and well designed. The only thing holding it back was that in-game grind that feels so out of place with the jumping grindiness. Stunlock Studios, I hope you get to see this and take my feedback to heart because I really love your game. I highly recommend it to gamers. So did you play VRISING? What did you think of it? Do you agree with what I say? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and please support this video. I've put in so much passion for this video, and I hope you all feel the same way watching it. Like, I really am excited doing this video. May God bless every single one of you, and as always, come be my neighbor.